Hazy Radio Network. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Hazy Radio Network, its affiliates, or sponsors. All shows are independently owned and broadcast for entertainment purposes only.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 1st edition of PARA-SCOPE Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. I am your host, Clarissa Vasquez, and with me, as always, is my ooey-gooey co-host, Mr. Rick Ariza. How you doing, Rick?
Hey, how y'all doing?
And we're supposed to have a guest for the first half hour of the show, Mr. Henry Flores, talking about the Day of the Dead celebration.
Henry's on the line,
actually.
Henry's on the line.
Henry's on the line. Awesome. Hey, Henry, how you doing?
Mademoiselle, je m'appelle Henry. Comment allez-vous? Oh, did I call the
wrong you say, compadre.
Hey, guys, we're in the middle of a paranormal investigation as we speak.
Are you at Concordia?
No, we're at the Burgess House here in El Paso.
Ooh.
And we're doing an investigation, and I thought, oh my God, I got to call this number. So I ran outside. I'm taking a break and wanted to call you guys and talk about the Day of the Dead.
Awesome. Well, yeah, because we do have a really large listener base here in El Paso, as Scott Hare from Crossing the Void learned last Wednesday, because he held a contest on his show, and everybody that called in was from a 915 area code. But because you're doing this festival this weekend and we have such a large El Paso and Las Cruces listener base, we wanted to give you a few minutes to talk about what's going on this weekend and where people can get more information and, what is the deal? What's going on this weekend, Henry?
Well, that's pretty cool. Thank you very much, first of all, guys, for having me on. But what we do is we're a 501 nonprofit organization, so we do all of these ghost tours and public events and festivals, all for free. And we collect all this money. We donate to other nonprofits for historical preservation. And this weekend, tomorrow, we're celebrating Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, at Concordia Cemetery. And it's from 4 to 8 p.m. It's $5 a person, or $1 for kids, senior citizens, military, and everybody else that likes to join us. But it's really cool. What we'll have is altars, vendors, food vendors, belly dancers. Oh my God, that's pretty cool. Oh, yeah, but they're all dressed up like Katrina dolls, like the Day of the Dead, painted faces, and really celebrating the holiday that originally came from the time of the Aztecs. And when the Spaniards and the Aztecs came and they made the mestizos, which is the current Mexican-American, they created that holiday. So it migrated over to the United States. It's even celebrated in Canada. It's amazing. But what Day of the Dead, what Dia de los Muertos is, it's really a celebration of life. We celebrate the deceased, our loved ones that have passed on, by making altars. We have marigolds, we have flowers that we decorate their graves, and we bring different foods, things that the deceased or the loved one liked during life here on Earth. For example, if when I go and we celebrate Dia de los Muertos, I am going to expect barbecue chicken wings and dark beer. So we know. Brother, you laugh, but it's true. So I'm going to be expecting it. So something like that would actually invite the spirit back to come and celebrate and say hello. And it's all done respectfully, and it's a whole lot of fun. There's going to be crafts for the kids. There's also going to be stilt walkers and funerals of sorts, little parade and ghost tours. So all the proceeds go to the restoration and preservation of Concordia Cemetery. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow, that's...
Even a scavenger hunt this year.
Oh, wow, that's great. And I'm sorry, I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, well, we're sorry we're sorry too, but it's gonna be fun, And for example, Heather, she's the one that put together all of our our scavenger hunt activities, and kids will get to have a sheet of paper and they walk around on a path, anything weird, and they look for symbology of the cemetery. Like, what does this symbol mean? Like a star or an angel or things like that. And they look during the scavenger hunt and they win prizes. You know, like little masks or flowers or little sugar skulls or some cool stuff like that, you know?
That's definitely a different twist to put on things.
Well, it is, because there has always been the notion of Day of the Dead to either be celebrated at a bar, which is cool, don't get me wrong, or there's the fear or the misunderstanding of Day of the Dead. And we're not celebrating that they're dead, we're celebrating that they lived, and also noticing how precious our lives are, especially without them.
Well, Henry, if somebody wanted to get more information or wanted to purchase tickets, where can they go?
Well, they can give us a call here in El Paso. It's 915-274-9531. Or they can visit our website, and that's Ghosts, Ghosts, ghosts915.com. And all the information is there. The food vendors and other vendor information is there as well. And it's promising to be amazing. Last year we had over 500 people. Over 500 people. And that's just simply either nobody has anything to do in El Paso or they really love Dia de los Muertos.
How many people are you anticipating this year?
I don't know. I mean, we had last year, and amazingly, we only had 12 vendors. We doubled that this year. There's 24, 25 vendors now confirmed that they will be at our event. A lot of them came from EPCon, like a comic convention. Vendors that were there also will be at our event. So it's not just that. You can come dressed as Dia de los Muertos. Maybe give away your Halloween candy that you didn't want. You know,
I didn't get any Halloween candy this year. Rick held out on me.
Well, and he probably got a rock, and he felt bad, so that's why he didn't get anything either.
Oh, that could be.
Well, I do have my little. I do finally have my little redheaded, girl. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're the Charlie Brown of the paranormal community, and and we wouldn't want it any other way.
No, bro, it's more like I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of the paranormal. I get no respect. I get no respect.
You get no respect. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but it's going to be really fun. We do it every year, and it's been growing, the interest of not just the paranormal, but the acceptance here in El Paso of the paranormal. Because traditionally, Catholics, they do not talk about ghosts, at least not in public. They don't, it's like taboo, or it's going to follow you home, or all these other things that are just misconception. It's just not basically true. Like, if you go and you celebrate life, they will appreciate it. And one thing that I have told my mom before, and I've told other family members, true death is when you forget the deceased. They don't want to be forgotten, because we wouldn't want to for our children or for our grandchildren. So we don't want to completely die. So that's why we remember them, by having this festivity.
Clarissa got a little bit of an introduction when it was still warm, before the weather literally started changing. We went and visited some of our family's graves here at Mount Carmel, and she went. We saw my dad, we saw my grandmothers, saw my uncle, and so I've been explaining it to her, our history, and I did mention the Mexica, the Aztecs, and the Noche. I attempted to explain to her the Noche Triste, and she kind of sort of goggled and looked at me. But what we found together really interesting was the history of Concordia Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just blown away because you guys were spray painting the headstones. That's not a custom that I am familiar with. We don't do that up in the northern areas.
Ah, okay.
Well, see, here's the thing. Dia de los Muertos, we sit there, we do that to, not only do we sit there, we bring a picnic lunch, the deceased's favorite food. We do this to clean up around the grave, maybe trim the grass a little bit, change the flowers, and we pretty up the stone a little bit. It's just reconnecting with that person, like we told stories about my dad, stuff like that. Isn't that right, Henry?
That's true, and we're not desecrating the grave, and we've seen loved ones bring in shovels and pickaxes and bricks and actually beautify the section. So they're not vandalizing, or I've seen that spray paint, by the way, and it's more like they help preserve the headstone, the limestone that's on there.
Right, and that's
weatherproof it.
Yeah, that's what I observed. But again, that's just not something that is done up north. Up north we have, granite or marble headstones, and and they're just not spray painted up north. And so that was a little culture shock for me. It was interesting to see it and learn about it, but it was not something I'd ever experienced before.
In the Latin community, every Sunday, if there's a family that has passed on recently, they go to the gravesite and they have like a little picnic with the person. Last time I went to go visit my dad, who is at Mar Carmel also. I went to go visit him, and there was a mariachi group just walking by, playing songs for the deceased. There was even another family watching the Dallas Cowboys game with their loved one buried there. It's not like they don't want to let them go. It's just that they don't want them to be forgotten. That's the thing. So it's a lot of fun to do this, and it also teaches kids not to be afraid, not to have the better understanding of taking care of your community, your family, because it's all about love.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm really enjoying, now, that things are going on between me and Clarissa. I'm really enjoying, being able to, exchange and she gets interested, especially in this tradition that we have of Dia de los Muertos. I'll tell you what, Henry, tell us when your next is your next investigation going to be at Concordia, and tell us what it is you're going to be looking for. Explain to us. I know I saw something on Facebook about some more going on that. What is it you call that? The Hell Road or the Vortex or something like that?
We call it.
Something's going on out there, brother.
Yeah, there's always weird things going on. I mean, it's oh gosh, it used to be 900 acres of desert cemetery. Now it's about 65 acres. So there's a lot going on there. Hell's Gate, it's a nickname that we gave it. It's the most vandalized area of Concordia. We call it vandalism, as in dark magic that is left behind the darkest part of Concordia. And it just so happens to be behind a Jewish section of the cemetery. So we do get people that go and leave their ritualistic items just right there, left there. I don't want to say it's satanic. I don't want to say it's Santeria or whatever, because I've met Satanists. I've met santeros, or how do you call it in English?
Brujas.
Like a witch doctor. I guess that's the closest thing I could say. And they'll tell us that's not us. We don't disrespect by cutting off the head of Christ as in the statue and put it in front of it, or break crosses just to put them upside down. Even though they celebrate or they more go into the darker part of life, according to what they've told me, they don't do that. That's just vandalism. So we go there and we talk about what has been found and what not to do at a cemetery by showing them the items that we found. Also, we go into an area that's called the Vortex. We nicknamed it that because the Vortex is an area that it drains the energy from our devices, batteries, even us, even guests that come along. They feel hungry, or they get emotional or crying, or they just get just something different. Last time we had a customer, or a guest, not a customer, we had a guest come by, and they said that they just felt like they got punched in the gut. And that was in the vortex. A lot of weird things that happened there. And during our ghost tour / investigation of Concordia, we have that every first and second Saturday of the month, year-round. And even in the coldest of winters, we still get crowds of people that want to become the paranormal investigator. They want to be the ghost hunter and look around for ghosts. We help them. We train them. We show them the difference between dust and an orb, if we've ever find orbs in our lives.
Right. Now, Henry, we've only got about 5 minutes left, but I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about an interesting phenomenon that happens out there at Concordia, and that's the smoking man.
Uh-huh.
Because the last time Rick and I were out there with you guys, we actually had potentially some interaction with the smoking man. And is that in the vortex, or is that outside of the vortex?
That's actually outside of the vortex. It's close by that's passing Hell's Gates. And the smoker's grave, or the smoking man, there's no smoking allowed in the cemetery. But, of course, with special permission, we'll do that for demonstration purposes. And we'll light up a cigarette. We don't smoke it. We just leave it right there on a little altar that's placed on top of a random headstone. And this is how we found it. We placed a cigarette there, and just being the curious people that we are, we asked it to, here's a cigarette. Have a smoke with me. We wanted to smoke with a ghost. And it did. We saw the cherry or the cigarette light just blaze up and then dim down, and we could see smoke coming out from it, as if someone was taking a puff, a drag from the cigarette. It was amazing. The first couple of times we've done it, I guess the ghost found the tobacco to be pleasant and just smoked that whole cigarette really fast. Nowadays, when we do it, if any spirit that's out there, they're probably saying, "Oh my God, another cigarette? All right, let's do it." And then there we go. So it's an interesting thing that happens in the tours, and we love showing our guests the different activities that's there in Concordia.
Right, and when we were out there the last time, I, of course, offered a lit cigarette to the ghost, and the cigarette was actually cast away. It was, if you remember, it was as if somebody picked it up and threw it off of the little altar, and which
so maybe
you and I were going, "Oh wow, that's great," but the guests that were with us were a little unnerved by that, I think.
Yeah, they were looking at it like, what the heck just happened? Well, maybe there's over 60,000 known residences at Concordia. One of them just didn't want to smoke.
That's right. We've got about 2 minutes left, Henry, so real quick, one more time, how can people get in touch with you and get tickets and more information for the festival tomorrow? Okay.
Well, it's Dia de los Muertos. That's tomorrow, Saturday, from 4 to 8 p.m., and they can call us at 915-274-9531. Tickets are $5, or with discounts, it's a whole $1. So it's a lot of fun. The proceeds go to the cemetery, and it's really cool to learn how to preserve history and enjoy it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Henry, for being on the show and for telling us about the festival. Again, I'm sorry I'm going to miss it. I am headed back to Colorado this weekend. So, but definitely next time I'm down here, we'll hit you up and we'll go chase some ghosts together.
We'll do it again, and it's been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for having us on, and we really appreciate it. We'll post pictures on our Facebook page and our website also.
Awesome.
Coolness. Henry, as usual, you rock, big guy.
Brother, thank you so much, man. You guys take care.
You too. Henry Flores from Paso del Norte Paranormal Society, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have questions, want to find out more about the Day of the Dead Festival or other events that Paso del Norte has going on, you can hit Rick and I up on Facebook, or you can find the Paso del Norte Facebook page, which is facebook.com/ if my computer was working right. There we go. Facebook.com / ghosts, plural, 915. GHOSTS 915. And that's going to take us to our bottom of the hour break, folks. Coming up, we've got A.K. Kuykendall. Going to be talking about some of his books and some conspiracy theories and the paranormal coming up on PARA-SCOPE Uncensored on the Hazy Radio Network. Stay tuned. 31 minutes past the hour on PARA-SCOPE Uncensored on the Hazy Radio Network. I'm your host, Clarissa Vasquez. Rick Ariza had to step away for just a second. He's having some technical difficulties. But with me this evening is a rather remarkable gentleman that I've had the pleasure of conversing back and forth with over the last few weeks while we were trying to get tonight's interview set up. Now, I asked that you guys listen to him with an open mind, and I asked that with all of our guests. But this gentleman definitely has some unique perspectives regarding some conspiracy theories, and most importantly, with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And he's been met with some controversy before, regarding his opinions. He has written books on the subject, and I honestly cannot wait to get my hands on his book series. We were supposed to get a review copy, but the publisher wasn't able to get that out to us in time for the show. But mark my words, as soon as it comes in, folks, I'm going to be reading it cover to cover. But ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. A.K. Kuykendall to the show. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is ours. It really is. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect, cyber connect, really, and start this dialogue back and forth about getting you on the show, because the more I read about you and learn about you, the more intrigued I am. And, I don't want to say too much, because I want you to tell the listeners, what it is, that really makes you so intriguing. But I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the way this gentleman's mind works, if you sit and listen with an open mind, he's going to blow your mind. So, he's a dedicated husband and father of 3, originally from Georgia, but he grew up in Hawaii, which I'm so jealous. If you are interested in learning more about him, go to thewriterofbooks.com. And that's all I'm going to say for right now, because I really want AK to talk to us about the Conspirator's Odyssey, which is the first book in a series. How many books are in the series?
There's only one so far in the series. I'm working on book 2. Looking for a bigger publishing deal for the book 2 that's rolling out. But currently it's in negotiations with a couple of film production studios, so that's a good thing, and which will catapult the sales there, as well as move into a bigger publishing deal for the next books in the series. I'm looking for a 3 to 4 book deal, which I'm in negotiations with right now.
Awesome. And as a fellow author, I can appreciate the constant search for the better book deal.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. We've been through ups and downs. If you write for a living, I don't necessarily do it for a living. I'm a corporate chef by trade. And that's what I do to keep the bills paid, insurance paid, and whatnot. But writing is my passion. There's nothing like it on earth. And on top of that, you never know when a story idea is going to turn into $1 million. So just stick at it. And I just do it for fun. But ultimately, it could be a huge revenue stream. eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way about my books. Although your genre and my genre are different. You know, I write fiction and nonfiction, whereas you write, I guess it would be classified as potentially nonfiction.
Yes, it could be. I usually say fact-based fiction only because I got this craving knack for messing with people. But ultimately, I'm a what you call a low-budget historian. I love origins of things, delving into the concept of the UFO phenomenon, religious takes on certain things, and if these religious factions are true, if these stories are true, 9 times out of 10 I exploit certain fact-based lineages inside in those tales that they've told. And on top of that, I'm like a historian, so I'm looking for truths in that as well as what's fiction out of that as well.
Yeah, and see, and I was a history major in college, and so I could definitely appreciate how you look at that, you know, and you look at the origins and you throw religion into the mix. But, you know, I'd really like to talk about the Conspirator's Odyssey. I don't know why I keep stumbling on that. Conspirator's Odyssey. Tell us what that book is about and why you might be catching a little bit of flack for it.
It's rather detailed. I catch a little flack to it because I don't approach it as if it's a fiction project. It is fact. I consider it fact-based fiction, but the percentage either way, I can't reveal. That's up to you or the audience to figure that out upon reading my work. But the way that I and my publicist market the project has nothing to. I don't market it as if it's fiction. It's all marketed as if it's fact, because there are strong factual elements in the work that only we true truth seekers will actually read between the lines of what I've written. Just like I always tell everybody to go to the author's note just to get a sneak peek of the author's note. A sneak peek can be also read on or accessed through my website, www.thewriterbooks.com. But if you don't mind, I could actually read a little piece of the author's note to give you a little insight into me and the story itself.
Please do. Yeah, we'd love that.
All right. So I'm just going to just take it off here. So it's from the author's note of the novel. It'll give you a better perception of where I'm coming from, ladies and gentlemen. As a young man and a United States Marine Corps brat for the better part of my existence, I grew up with the smell of fatigues, which lingered regularly about the many bases my family and I both visited and resided, the pungent aroma trailing me as I made my way through life. Along with my cravings bordering on the obsessive for ready-to-eat military stock meals, I was brought up to appreciate the military's code of conduct. On the other side of the coin, and through my days, I was especially diligent in historic readings, literature of all genres, and with the media goings-on in the world, all witnessed from an obscure perch I dubbed Fort Kuykendall. As the days in my life ticked by and as history played itself out before my eyes, I continually found myself at a loss for words in reflection of the many tempestuous global occurrences. There was entirely too much upheaval in the world, and I couldn't get my head around it all. This is when I decided to prioritize, and I allowed my passions to take hold. And though I was born 11 years after his assassination, the late John F. Kennedy became my focus, and with this came a torrent of mysterious doors I instinctively knew neither I nor anyone else was meant to open. In reflection of my time as a military brat, witnessing repeat deployments on behalf of our nation, from what I had discovered, I was then, and still am to this very day, floored by the rampant political corruption that has covertly reduced our American soldiers to blind offenders and lambs for the slaughter. In searching for answers through an extensive research process, a highly complex picture began to emerge with both eerie and true-to-life connections. And in my desperate need to make sense of it all, I pushed on, exhaustively researching every angle that emerged, and then I made a connection that at first even I could hardly believe. I discovered the true meaning behind former President Dwight David Eisenhower's January 17, 1961 farewell address to the nation. By playing on the complexities within my own research, I decided to use the very same historical information that led to this discovery to present a plausible backdrop, and Conspirator's Odyssey was born. As it is written in Wikipedia, a conspiracy theory explains an event as being the result of an alleged plot by a covert group or organization, or more broadly, the idea that important political, social, or economic events are the products of secret plots that are largely unknown to the general public. What it is that I only read a piece of it, ladies and gentlemen, but what I'm getting at is that I focus on the complexities or the conspiracies in our world. But when it comes down to John F. Kennedy, everyone for over 50 years has focused on the who, what, when, where, and how, which is practically redundant. What I focus on is the why.
Yeah, and that's not something that a lot of people focus on. You mentioned President Eisenhower and his farewell speech. Can you tell us a little bit about what was said or implied in that farewell speech that caught your attention?
What you mainly got to focus on is when he said, "Beware the military-industrial complex." That's the main crux of that speech that most individuals just ignored. Maybe it was just the times, and it was the weight or the heaviness of his words at that particular time in history. But it was very dire what he was trying to talk about. See, what it is that all presidents, every president since the beginning of the United States in our republic, have been bound by certain secret oaths that they have to abide by, or they can get snuffed out. I.e. Lincoln, i.e. Kennedy. When they try to go against those oaths and against those grain, then they're actually snuffed out. So I look at it as this: history for me is a rather convoluted thing as it is recorded. The sheer weight of the world's words endlessly drowned in a sea of well-placed, strategically balanced yet beautiful lore. As a self-described historian, objectivity is a necessity and definitely warranted with such studies. But as an author of questionable fiction who wanders the grandiloquence of history's many gateways, I've always fancied the rim of the steepest literary precipice. What it was is that Eisenhower was trying to forewarn the world, not just America and Americans, but the entire world of the trajectory by which these secret plots were leading. One thing about it is that you can look at it as this: Harry S. Truman actually actually sparked the flame of the military-industrial complex because he put it in place and he fortified it tenfold after the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. Eisenhower, his successor, was in line with his way of thinking and his well-meaning efforts at protecting we human, not only America, but humanoids in general. But what happens when Eisenhower moves back, then other parts of our government starts to churn, and it becomes like an evil box with a lot of tentacles, and it goes off in every different immoral faction pathways it possibly can. The reason why Kennedy was assassinated was primarily because he was going to stop the Vietnam War. And Vietnam itself was nothing but a grand science experiment, test injecting our American soldiers with a beta version of a concocted super soldier serum. That's all it was. We hear things like post-traumatic stress disorder and whatnot. Now, that has something to do with that concocted serum that was actually flowing through their bloodstream.
Mr.
I hope I didn't ramble on that part.
I'm sorry. No. My mistake. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Mr. Kuykendall, good evening. Hi. My name is Rick.
Yeah.
I'm a co-host on the show. Welcome.
How you doing, Rick?
I'm hanging in there. Big guy, this is really, this is one of those things that I have to put aside because I grew up during that era, 1965. I was born, and I find this all very fascinating. You touched on Kennedy. Let me ask you this right off the top of my head. Did you ever have any kind of contact with Jim Garrison? Because I was very intrigued by the book and the movie, and I was wondering if you had ever had any kind of contact with Jim Garrison, and if there was anything he imparted to you.
Never had any contact with Jim Garrison, but there was many contacts through Jim Garrison that I've been in contact with. Unfortunately, I can't reveal the strength or who my source is, but my source is very real. I allude to my source in many of my marketing, but I'll never be able to give up he, she, or its name. But one of the biggest things that my source told me is that I cannot approach this from a factual basis. The only way that you can actually capture the mental capacity of we brainwashed humanoids is by approaching it in one of the biggest or most popular ways, and that's through entertainment. I always say that writers such as myself, screenwriters, film producers, and directors have been doing things like this for years, preparing the masses for the inevitable. I always say think back to the Rod Serling's 1959 through 1964 series, The Twilight Zone, or the Mercury Theater's October 30th, 1938 broadcast of The War of the Worlds over the Columbian Broadcasting System's radio, where actor Orson Welles continues to frighten the hell out of me. I knew then that in order to shake the psyche and affect the consciousness of my brethren, I would have to do it today just as they did back then. And ultimately, that's what you're reading. That's what you're fascinated with right now is my story, because I focus heavily on the why. And people keep thinking it's so convoluted, the concept of Kennedy's assassination, when it's actually very simple. You do no president, no one. Presidents are nothing but tokens on a mantle that we can just blame for certain things. He was just in the way of a war, and that war was needed in order to further perpetuate this military trajectory of a super soldier serum.
Now, I've got a question for you about that super soldier serum. And Rick and I are both U.S. military veterans.
Okay.
And you said that the serum was the top secret explanation for post-traumatic stress disorder, yet we still have soldiers coming back with PTSD to this day. Are they still testing this super serum, or
very, very much so? They're not completely successful. If you've seen in some of my reporting, if you've seen on let's say my social networking pages, let's say my Facebook page on Conspiracy Odyssey, you'll see some very tangible proof that they've been working on this for years. They just can't come out the box and say our soldiers in the future are going to come up with, are going to be able to live for regrow limbs blown off in war, or live off their fat stores. Where's this stuff coming from? You know, it had to have been tested throughout the generations, throughout the years. Anybody with a brain cell would know that. But most people just ignore the fact that when I put my post up there and then I attach an actual article from another author that actually got permission to say the story, they got permission from the government. So therefore, 9 times out of 10, he has been influenced by those same factions that are actually perpetuating this stuff. And it falls on we the people. I always say that the 99% always spills blood on behalf of the 1%. We're brainwashing to believing it's the noble thing to do. And I believe it's a noble thing to do. But ultimately, yourselves and soldiers today are actually fighting on behalf of individual interest of the 1% and not for a grander objective.
I can agree with that. Given what they call politics that's going on in our nation's capital right now, I'm not going to get up on my soapbox about that right now. But, I can agree with you in some aspects about that. But I do want to ask you the question again. You said that President Kennedy got in the way of the Vietnam War. Am I quoting you correctly on that?
Yes.
And
he was going to pull out.
He was going to pull out.
Yes.
Okay. Then who was behind that? Who was pushing for the war? Was it one person? Was it a group of people? what was the basis then for insisting that this war happened so that this super serum could be tested?
This the basis for it is highly convoluted. That's why it's inside the book. Trying to explain it to you from this vantage point is very hard without getting tongue-tied. But I can give you an overview of why it is, because ultimately, you could just look at me as a covert advocate for the 99%, many of whom are soldiers in arms today. I'm more like a covert advocate. That's what I am. Most people don't look at it that way. I'm an author trying to sell a book and whatnot. But the way that I am, the way that I approach life, the way that I think, which you alluded to earlier in the program, and the way that I write is all fused into one. My passions came from being a military brat. So being an advocate is very strong with me as I'm writing, especially when it comes down to the military itself and the people that actually bear arms on our behalf and fight supposedly on our behalf. But when it comes down to what was I about to think? I'm sorry. So sorry.
I had asked you about who was ultimately behind it.
Ultimately, so it's very convoluted, but it's no one person that you can put what's ultimately behind it, except for Harry S. Truman, which actually flagshipped this entire program. He flagshipped this entire program after his introduction to an extraterrestrial by the name, but that they codenamed EBE, which EBE is an acronym for extraterrestrial biological entity. EBE spoke of a war. This is highly confidential, but EBE spoke of a war, and Eisenhower, and the details of which are beyond imagination. I allude to it in the book, but EBE spoke of a war that had to do not only with humanity, but it also had to do with other extraterrestrial entities in our extended universe. This super soldier serum was not meant to do battle amongst our own species. It was meant to do battle amongst our extraterrestrial brethren. So if I was going to say a name or who was behind it all, it was the one that flagshipped it, which was Harry S. Truman. But what happened was that when his predecessor, President Eisenhower, took over and knew that his motivations were noble, but he started to see certain things churning in this massive military complex that ultimately cannot be controlled. Just like today, President Barack Obama cannot control the CIA. Same thing. So once this massive thing started to churn, it started moving into many different areas of our society. Now it's a certain military factions in our America are now trying to use, if they can master this super soldier serum, they want to use it to conquer world territory. So therefore, we wouldn't have a need for trees, oil, natural resources. We wouldn't need all that stuff. We would need to go down and visit with other nations if we controlled it all. Now imagine a super soldier in the mix, able to go into battle, get harmed, get right back up again, and continue the onslaught. Imagine what that would do for our nation. But there's certain evil factions in our nation that are actually or that actually are perpetuating this. And this also goes in line with MK Ultra when they're trying to focus on not only the body, but they're also trying to control the mind. And if you can just use a little flex of logic, think about Sandy Hook. What made that child do what he did?
Right, absolutely. And we're going to have to go to our top of the hour commercial break. But when we come back, we got a question from the chat room. And since you mentioned Sandy Hook, I definitely want to talk to you about that. Mr. A.K. Kuykendall, ladies and gentlemen, here on PARA-SCOPE Uncensored on the Hazy Radio Network. Stay tuned. We'll be back.